What y'all listening to?
Limelight Highlight Podcast.
Welcome back to the show, your positive podcast, safe space, and great place for a positive outlook on life. We are here again with another great episode coming at you. I've been experimenting with how exactly I want the show to be laid out, and I'm always trying to make it a great, digestible listening experience for you all, so keep an ear out for how things are going to change over the next few weeks. Instead of giving you the positive news story before or after the conversation or interviews that the podcast has, instead, I'll reserve a 20 to 40 minute positive good news episode at the end of each month to shine some light on how good things are going on in the world. So feel free to drop some advice if you think you have a different idea on how I should structure the show or anything like that. I'll be more than happy to take a listen to the suggestions. So far, I'm thinking about starting off the podcast with just a couple updates and shout outs on things going on in my life and the positivity space. And then we can dive into our unrelated fun fact, followed by our interview/conversation. And then we can end the podcast with just a quick recap of what we talked about and give you guys a nice little sign off. So just want to give you an idea of how the format is going to go before we get started and how I want it to take place. Like I said, it's a constant work in progress. So thanks in advance for working with me and listening and all that good stuff. So now a couple updates before we get into today's episode. The Block Gives Back, our partners and favorite nonprofit organization, if you weren't aware, have been giving out free hot meals since the early months of COVID. Every Saturday, they've been setting up right outside the Block shop and, just giving out hot plates as well as other goods like produce boxes and loaves of bread. And since the pandemic hit, the Block Gives Back has started out by giving out, I think, 64 platters. Well, this past Saturday, they served 130 platters, over 600 pounds of groceries, 150 loaves of bread, and dozens of fresh baked bagels. Tallying up those numbers, they're looking at around pushing 4,000 meals served since the pandemic started. So this is a huge deal and worthy of recognition if you ask me. So shout out to the Block Gives Back, the Block team, and those amazing volunteers and people who have been helping support by giving your donations, and whether it's monetary donations or food donations, all those items that make the great organization serve their community. That type of news makes me feel so good and really proud to be involved with the Block Gives Back. But since COVID doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon, the Block Gives Back needs your help to keep this up and to keep the ball rolling. So if you can support, please do so. You can buy merch like one of their many block shirts, which they have some great designs. Counts as a tax write-off too. So go make a donation, get yourself some merch, feel good about being part of something bigger than us. Check out theblockgivesback.org or check out the show notes where I'll have all the links to the info and places where you can donate to. Now, for this episode of the podcast, we're joined by a genuinely great guy, Mike View. He has an Instagram account called Pancakes and Protein Shakes. It's all about spreading love, forming relationships, and creating important bonds with the city. But the main goal of the page, as well as the topic of this podcast, is all about supporting local businesses. Instead of going to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, go out of your way and hit up a locally owned cafe, one of the mom and pop coffee shops, or just a mom and pop shop for your foods. Keep the money within the community. But it doesn't stop there. You got to get your clothing from locally owned businesses. Just find any way to help a small business and owners thrive, especially now where a lot of those people are going under. This episode covers mostly all of Philly, but obviously this isn't limited to just our city. You can do this anywhere you are, wherever you're listening. So we speak on all about how his page has become bigger than food, and it's just a really serious movement that's going on. And I'll probably stop giving some spoilers away. Just know that Mike is a super interesting individual and stands strong by his principles. I really enjoyed having this conversation, and it really made me think about how I should go out and spend my money, instead of just going to the easiest thing that's close by. Look for some locally owned businesses. So I hope you enjoy listening and get some really good, interesting facts out of this episode. But before I forget, let's knock out this week's unrelated fun fact. This week's unrelated fun fact kind of relates to previous episodes and something I like to preach a lot about. I always talk about recycling and how much it can really help our world and the environment, and nothing's really changed about that, but I found this fact really interesting and useful and fun in case you need a reminder. This week's unrelated fun fact is recycling one glass jar saves enough energy to watch television for 3 hours. This is how important recycling is. The average person has the chance to recycle 25,000 cans in their lifetime, which in turn can become 75,000 hours of television. So I'm doing my part. I don't know about you. Pretty good unrelated fun fact for you guys to take with you and apply that to your life. So now that we're done with that, I won't hold you up any longer. So without further ado, help me welcome Mike View to the show. Oh, I got Mike on the podcast. You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
All right, yeah, let's get right into it. My name's Mike View. I run the page on Instagram, Pancakes and Protein Shakes, and this is how we actually got to this point. So we're in the Northeast, actually in the Block Is Back building. I was invited by Limelight podcast, obviously, which is why I'm here, but through the Block Is Back reached out to me. They're like, hey, I have a buddy coming in from San Diego who runs a podcast, this podcast, Limelight Highlight. And then we were able to talk, you and me.
Yeah.
And you're like, you want to be on this podcast? I was like, of course. Yeah, I was going to get a little San Diego West Coast connection. I was like, this is going to be all right. And but yeah, the way this came about is the Block Is Back does tons and tons of events, as you guys already know, and probably can follow. Well, you will follow on Instagram after this, but the Block Is Back on all social media platforms. We were up here bringing food to them, actually, because they give away free meals every Saturday, free warm meals. I always say that every time you guys have that up. I always say the word warm. I'm like, free, fresh, warm meals. And
they're not the box chows.
No.
The cold box meals.
No way.
Bologna sandwiches you get from a block party.
Yeah, no way. They're doing it right up here. So we tried to do a little bit of our part and bring some Angelos and some Giordano's, some South Philly eateries. We wanted to bring the food up here.
I keep hearing about Angelos. Is it?
Let's put that on pause. Everyone's gonna think I'm trying to throw up Angelo's advertisement. Everything is like Angelo's out of my mouth.
All right.
But we brought that up here. And we tried to help with them giving out meals, and it went really well. And that's how we formed our bond, Alyssa and I, with the Block Is Back. And then the Block Is Back already had their bond with you. You're their boy. And that's how I'm on the Limelight Highlight show right now. But back to Angelo's. I can get you to Angelo's this week before you leave, maybe tomorrow.
Hakeem was really adamant about getting me over there.
Yeah, we can go tomorroon if you want. That's good.
Best
cheesesteaks,
best cutlets. We'll see what things go, because I got to leave tomorrow. But
what time?
Like 5:45.
And you're going back to San Diego, right?
Yeah.
Because when I post this on my stuff, I want people to know, like, you're West Coast guy.
Yeah. So, well, I'm from Philly.
Right.
I'm born and raised in Philly, but right now I'm in San Diego. I was in the Marine Corps.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got out in 2014, December, so almost 2015. And I just decided to stay out there.
And you're stationed out there? That's why you were out there originally?
Yeah,
okay,
I
right.
was stationed out
that
there.
Makes sense.
So I didn't want to move back.
Cool. Yeah, no, I heard that.
But set up a little spot for myself. And,
yeah.
I did a podcast with a couple friends, and I figured out what to do, what equipment I needed, trial and error kind of thing, and they moved away. So then I set up this one because I wanted to do something meaningful. Limelight Highlight was started. And it's kind of the reason you're here today.
Right.
Just to highlight positive people doing positive things. And Tommy was telling me about your page, Pancakes and Protein Shakes.
Yes, sir.
And how, I looked on your website, and it's all about getting people to shop locally.
Sure.
And
community, love, togetherness, friendship,
everything.
Pancakes and Protein Shakes is just about what this is right here. We're coming into this podcast as complete strangers. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're going to talk. I'm going to learn all about you. Just like you said, we're about to learn a lot. Yeah, because we don't know each other, so it's perfect. That's what Pancakes and Protein Shakes is. We try to do as much as we can for the community, and just support local artists, restaurants, any business, anything. You know what I mean? And we're just trying to be there for the people. My goal with the page was always to to create a social media presence, I wanted to be the guy that people that I would want around me, if that makes sense. So like if I was a business, I would want someone like me to be around to help out. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be just a positive voice, positive influence, and just help the best I can. That's really what Pancakes and Protein Shakes is about. Relationships. And it's not like this phony Instagram stuff that goes on. People just want likes and whatever. I could post something and it won't get any likes or anything. That's fine. I just do my part, support what I can. We dump all of our money into it. We pay for our rent, and the rest goes to local business. You know what I mean? As far as like clothing, food, as much as we can eat, as much as we can buy. Anyone who has anything for sale, it's not like it's not for clout, it's not for like attention, it's not for
to be insta famous,
right? It's not for this Instagram stuff. This page took a lot to get the small following that it has. You know what I mean? And but it's a real strong following, and I'm starting to learn that people are listening and people are taking interest to what I'm saying. And
you have a podcast.
And we do have a podcast, so Pancakes and Protein Shakes podcast on all major platforms. But I don't know if I was looking on your website. There's like 40 things. You know what I mean? There's like 15 things on your website that it says that your podcast pushes out to. Spotify and iTunes is mainly where I've seen everyone flood to when we do post. But I started it during COVID.
Do you have like a host site?
Yeah, so I put it onto, you might know this better than I do. I put it onto like a hosting site, and they pump it out to all the different sites.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it. That's not, wasn't Audacity.
There's
right?
There's like Podbean, there's Spreaker. That's my host site.
No, I don't use that one either. If you Google
Buzzsprout.
Nope. If you Google search, it was the first one that popped up.
Okay.
I don't know, but yeah, it pumps it out to like 12 or so different platforms. But I noticed all the platforms that it comes out for mine. Yours was the same. I was like, maybe it uses the same thing.
Yeah, it's probably. I mean, most host sites pump out to the same.
Yeah.
I know some people use Anchor and.
Anchor. No, that's
it. Is Anchor.
Yeah, Anchor. Okay.
Yeah.
So Anchor was the first thing that popped up, and I didn't know what I was doing when I did the podcast. We were sitting during COVID, right? When that started, I always wanted to do a podcast because it's just, I don't know, it was just a long form way to put my page. How could I say this? It was just a long form way of putting my page into something more interesting, maybe, and not just pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted people to get a glimpse of
who you are,
who I am, and like what I'm building. Because, for example, I posted a picture of Joe's Pizza in New Canaan today, of Lorenzo, owner of Joe's Pizza. Only on a podcast you're gonna hear like we're boys, you know what I mean? We're friends. Mm-hmm. I can say it on a picture. Oh, here's my family. Here's Lorenzo. You know what I mean? Owner of Joe's Pizza. Go there in New Canaan. No one like that doesn't resonate. You know what I mean? With a podcast, I figured that would be a way that people can understand really what's happening, and then they could hear. The main part of this podcast was so that they could hear the other side of the pictures. You know what I mean? Who's behind it? What they went through to get to where they are and all that stuff. So just gives like a whole wraparound of like who I am, who the owners are, and
what they're about,
right, and our story together. Yes, and it went good. So we only did 6 episodes. Our episodes like range from an hour and 15 minutes to 2 hours. We did one with Piggyback Treats that I told you we pre-showed. We pre-showed for 6 hours.
Wow.
Got wasted, and then really put together probably my favorite podcast. Piggyback Treats. Quick shout out is if you have a dog or a cat, that any animal, that's where you need to be getting your pet food from. Piggyback Treats on all platforms. But the I don't know. With COVID, I didn't want to be promoting on Instagram. You know what I mean? Social distance, be safe, be this, be that. Yeah. But then me pushing on like. My people, let me come in the kitchen. We'll do this podcast. I don't know, just being overall bad luck. And not to mention, I did get some pushback from people who were like, we can't have you in here. Mm-hmm. And like I was telling you, I don't have a podcast set up. It's mobile like this. It's 2 mics. It's my computer and pieces that sometimes, you're right.
You got a Pelican case and all
right.
That stuff, yeah.
I don't have a nice Pelican case. I just throw it in a duffel bag. Yeah. And I pull up to these different places, but there's factors like I can't control the sound. Yeah. I don't know what things sound like. With 1-900 ice cream, the air conditioner was going in the background. I got it. It was a great podcast. They're so smart. There's such cool people there. But